Good evening, Bear Nation. I'm Bear from the internet, as you're aware, and we're going to do some preparedness Q&A this evening. It's been a while since we've done this on YouTube. Rachel Heighthouse, Raincat, shalom everybody. And so I wanted to, I'll be completely honest. I didn't necessarily want to do this, but I was sitting here and the Spirit was saying, hey, do this. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. So here we are doing this. So we'll wait a little bit for the room to fill up, and then we'll discuss the rules, because there are rules to the live stream. And what's that?
Your YouTube?
Yes, I'm on the tubes of you.
Tubes of
Indeed. Hello, everybody.
Tommy's in the background.
Barrett. Yes, my wife is over here. We've been burning brush on the homestead for, and when I say brush is inaccurate, we've removed 42 cedar trees in the last 10 calendar days, but a couple of those have been Shabbats and it rained for a couple of days. So in like 6 days, we've taken out 42 cedar trees, and of varying size, from Mass Prepa, Shalom brother, from, you know, basically a fence post to considerably sized trees. So we have a massive pile of ash over here.
I don't even think they can see it all. Like,
No, you
let me
can't.
get the flashlight.
Pile's like 7 foot high.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not supposed to kindle a fire on the Sabbath, but sun's down, it's not a Sabbath, and this fire's been going for 10 days. So here we are. So rules for the live stream. The primary rule, super easy. Treat everybody with respect, okay? The people above you and below you in the chat, that is your brother and sister, please treat them as such. Don't be a jerk, don't be name calling, don't be trying to score points on people. Just love your neighbor as yourself, okay? The next rule is very simple. If you have a question, put it in all caps. That increases the likelihood that I will see it. If I don't see it, I can't answer it. If I see it and I don't want to answer it, I won't answer it. If I see it and I do want to answer it, I will answer it. And if somebody with a blue wrench answers your question in the chat, your question has been answered, okay? We've been doing this for 5 years now. Yeah, 5 years we've been doing this. And so we get a lot of redundant questions over the last, 260 months of the last 4,000 videos. We've gotten a lot of the same questions. So if your question is, Bear, what's the best striker-fired polymer-framed 9mm pistol? You're probably gonna just get blocked. Okay. Somebody said, where is it? David said, hear anything about the Sasquatches? Anything else about the Sasquatches? No, nope, I haven't. And we're like super duper well armed. And like I said, I'm not overly concerned about the Sasquatch. Although we had somebody from the Bear Nation did an awesome drawing that I posted to Patreon. If you're on Patreon, you've seen it. Let me see if I can find it. This is so good. It's Sasquatch in a tree holding a warhead so he can put it on my forehead. And then you've got me down here. And I thought the rendition of me was really good. Cigar, chainsaw, hoodie, slung rifle, holding a sheep. Yeah. Super good. Super, super good. He also did one of Twitch. This young man was actually very recently baptized in our AO. Praise the Father. Let me see if I can find the one that he did of Twitch. And let's see. Boopy doopy doo. There it is. Super good. Guy's got some real talent. So, yep. So, now that I'm paying attention to your questions, go ahead and ask them. Have you ever seen a Wooka Squatch? Nope, not that I'm aware of. I've actually never seen a Sasquatch. Do you do training in Oklahoma? Yes, there are 2 dates in Oklahoma on the calendar for 2023 this year. My belief is that we are solidifying the venue right now. Let me go to Refuge Medical and then click on training. Oh, I said the name. Medical training. Then I'll go to training. Hit the button. We got Baton Rouge, Lebanon, Pennsylvania, bunch of classes in Lebanon, PA. Waco, Texas. Boise, Idaho. Tell City, Indiana. The venue in Tell City is excellent. The venue in Waco is excellent. Okay, so the Oklahoma dates have not posted yet. I was just talking with Phelps, who's our CLO, Chief Learning Officer, at the company, and I know that probably this week we're going to have more dates. Do you have a mailing address? I do. I'll touch on that in a moment. I know that probably within the next week we're going to have more dates to post, and the proposed training schedule. There's like 45 classes, y'all, this year for 2023. We've gone pretty deep for 2023, and 2 of those dates are in Oklahoma. So, any update on the hurricane recovery project in Florida? Yes, I have a mailing address. If you email the admin, they can give it to you. But I've gotten to the point where I get so much stuff in the mail, I don't even know what it is anymore. Who it's from, all of that. And some people send some very thoughtful and meaningful stuff. Other people clean out their garage and go, Bear might want this, and put it in a box and send it to me. So I would put it this way. The only undeniable, or the only unforgivable sin, this comes out of the mouth of Yeshua, out of the mouth of Messiah, is the denying of the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. So if the Spirit tells you send this thing to Bear, as long as it's not explosive or anthrax, go right ahead. The Spirit, not a spirit, the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, okay? If the Spirit says send it, send it. If it just seems like it would be a nice gesture or something like that, honestly, at this point, we get so many parcels, so many packages, so many letters, we get 15,000 emails a week, y'all. Like, bless y'all, appreciate you. My wife just said, put that stuff on Facebook Marketplace and buy more food. TRW, appreciate you. Thank you, brother. Thank you and your team for all you do. I appreciate all of you guys' time and effort. I appreciate you, brother. You've been here for a long time. Thank you, homie. And James Cipriano, another one who's been here a long time. I'm in the home stretch. Literally, Northeast Tennessee will be home soon. Between you and PJF, you two have helped me to be in the right mindset. Well, praise y'all, man. Praise y'all. That's awesome, James. Update on the house in Florida. So we, meaning the Bear Nation, and a handful of awesome subcontractors, Aaron and Andrew and George and Jody, who's our head of construction with Grindstone, which, by the way, you should be watching Across the Table with Bob. Bob being Chief Operating Officer at Refuge Medical. Bob has a podcast and a YouTube channel called Across the Table with Bob, where he's doing excellent interviews with people. And thus far, these people have all been our people. And every episode he's done thus far has been incredible. He's done Twitch, Jody, Sarah, who's one of our salespeople and a publisher and the wife of Cracker turned Torah, and Yankee, Howitzer Hill, thus far. So if you want to know more about Jody and his backstory and how Yah brought him here to be a blessing to Grindstone, Across the Table with Bob, check that out. But Jody's been back and forth to Florida several times. Thank you, MM Prepper. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. And so we've gotten the house completely gutted, floors torn out, insulation ripped out, rewired, replumbed, tore the fireplace out, reframed the back wall, windows and doors, gutted the kitchen, got their roof squared away, and then also got them with a public adjuster that was holding their insurance company's feet to the fire. Basically got them to the point where they are ready to put their house back together. And what they wanted to do was make some changes with the floor plan, the layout, and the finish out level. Like, they wanted to do some improvements, up the property value some. And they're going to be appropriately compensated from their insurance company. And so Grindstone's position has always been, we are here for life and limb to get you back on your feet. And we go and look for people who were barely getting by before the storm hit. And these people absolutely checked that box. Well, they said, look, the insurance company is going to do right by us. We really don't want you to continue doing what you're doing at great expense with no billing to Grindstone, when we can now afford to finish this project ourselves. And they're living in a trailer that y'all raised the money for, a travel trailer in their driveway that we got hooked up to their septic tank and water and power and all of that. And so they have a place to live, they have all of that, and they're good to go. And now, because the public adjuster was able to get the insurance companies to do their damn job, they're going to be able to not just put the house back the way it was, but make the improvements that they wanted to make to the house in the first place. So that's all moving along swimmingly. It's been really good. Praise Yah. Central Iowa here, Jen and Steve, shalom. Do you know if Kyle, survival prepping for normal people, is okay? He hasn't posted in a long time. Get that question all the time. The last time I talked to Kyle, which was fairly recently, he was doing great. He's had a strategic relocation, I believe, yeah, a strategic relocation. He's doing meaningful work. He's surrounded by people that loves him. His head is in a good place. He was doing great the last time I talked to him. Now, I don't know if something's changed since then, but I have every reason to believe that he's doing just fine. We do text occasionally, and I don't want it to sound like having a YouTube or a Patreon channel is a whole bunch of hard work, because it's definitely not turning big rocks into little rocks with a sledgehammer, okay? Like, it's not hard like that. But there's a certain amount of responsibility that one feels for their audience. There's pressure there. Pressure to inform, pressure to perform. And then on the back end, on this side of the camera, there's a lot of demoralization that happens when you're dealing with these big tech companies. When you're constantly getting content being pulled or demonetized, or the algorithm's working against you. And at some point, it has happened to me on several occasions, you begin to look at your quality of life and ask yourself the question, is the juice worth the squeeze? And I'll be completely honest with you. The reason I keep showing up is because of y'all. Like, I started this broadcast by saying I didn't really want to do a live stream tonight, but I was sitting here looking at the fire, watching my little one roast vegan marshmallows, hanging with my wife, praying to the Father, basically saying thank you. I'm like, hey, what do you need me to do right now? He's like, go talk to the people. Roger that. So I feel I'm not responsible for you, but I feel a responsibility to you. And I derive a great amount of joy from us being able to have these conversations, as long as they're productive, right? And we've definitely had our moments. If you've been here for any period of time, we've definitely had our moments with the trolls and with the bots and with the demonetization and having channel strikes. And it's been a pain in the ass, man. But that's the thing, like, the promise of Messiah is a good life, not an easy life. Bless you, Superfish. And again, YouTube is not turning big rocks into little rocks with a sledgehammer, right? It's not building rail lines with a pickaxe. You know, it's not that. But it is psychologically, mentally, emotionally sometimes a real burden from the standpoint of trying to produce the content in a meaningful way that reaches people, touches people's lives, provides value, and while skirting the SAM sites that are the YouTube algorithm. So I understand Kyle taking a break. I totally get it. And I think at some point he'll probably be back. And when he is back, he will probably be better than he's ever been. But there's, and you know, another thing that happens while you're busy shooting YouTube videos is your kids grow up. You get older. Your priorities change. And you have to ask yourself, you know, juice versus squeeze, what's the best use of my time right now? Do I hang out with my kid, who's not going to be a kid forever? Do I hang out with my wife, who I don't get to see all the time? Or do I hang out with y'all, right? And that kind of dovetails into the concept of work-life balance, which I'm not the person to talk to about because I have no idea. I'm a firefighter, man. When stuff's on fire at work, I go put the fire out. When stuff's on fire at home, I go put the fire out. And while I'm putting the fire out at home, something else catches on fire at work. So I go back to work. And while I'm putting the fire out at work, something else catches on fire at home. And that's it. Just drive around putting the wet stuff on the hot stuff. Kim Jong-un. Greetings from Lithuania. You know, Kim, I was pretty sure you were in North Korea, but I guess you get around, man. Appreciate you. I gotta put my toboggan back on. My legs are super warm. I got a pair of shorts on my legs, but my legs are closer to the fire than my head is. There we go. Bear, I've got food, water, medical, some security. Where should I start next? Commo, Intel, networking. Commo, Intel, networking for sure. Networking being the most important portion of that, honestly. Because if you don't have the network, where are you going to get the intel from? Who are you going to share it with? And if you don't have the network, who are you going to talk to when your commo's up? So, commo, intel, networking. And those three aspects are the type of thing that you can't really buy your way out of. Which is why a lot of prepper channels don't really talk about them. Because it's not click here, buy now, pleased to make for you, best knife for good reviews, smile face, made in Jinhao province, right? It's not that. It's way more difficult because you actually have to do some peopling. And the interesting thing with that, NWA Prepper, I agree wholeheartedly about your networking thoughts. It's not what you know as much as who you know sometimes. I agree completely, brother. NWA Prepper is part of my greater network, right? Like, great brother. In fact, before Refuge Medical was Refuge Medical, little known fact, if you've been here a hot minute, you know this. If you haven't been, you don't. Before Refuge Medical was Refuge Medical, Bear Independent made first aid kits, right? Hold on, I gotta scoot a little bit closer to the fire. There we go. And I didn't have a pipeline. Me personally, I didn't have a pipeline with North American Rescue. So talk about, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So I was chatting with NWA Prepper, and he was like, hey, I have an account with North American Rescue. Anything you need to get, just let me know, and I'll get it for you. Bless you, brother. Thank you. Sounds good. And for a hot minute, and in fact, I don't know if you still can or not, but NWA Prepper has a website called adventurefrontier.com. where he has prepper gear and medical stuff and all of that, which, if, you know, it's Saturday night, you got some cash burning a hole in your pocket, adventurefrontier.com. Check him out. And he'll be at SHOT Show, and we'll be at SHOT Show, and we'll be hanging out. And so he was like, hey, man, however I can help. I was like, roger that, man. I really appreciate that. And we were able to use his access to North American Rescue because early on, I literally was making and selling first aid kits at cost. Like, I was buying NAR, North American Rescue, at retail to put into kits. Because the company was founded on the concept of I want good people to have good kits to be able to save lives, right? That's still why our profit margins are significantly lower than they could be, right? And so having good people in your network is super important. That company, that NWA Prepper, helped me get off the ground by providing access to the components that we needed at scale. Went from me working an hour a week in my barn to now we've got 22 people on staff. It's like 20 families, 22 people on staff. We just had 2 new hires in the last week. Brought on some really cool people. Brought on an administrator for refuge training and brought on a subject matter expert, potential sales down the road, still current EMT, working with Refuge Medical. And so, that we wouldn't be there if it wasn't for NWA Prepper to help us get the ball rolling. And then we wouldn't be there if it wasn't for this network here, the Bear Nation, really getting the ball rolling with Refuge Medical. And so networking is super important, and it's something that's sorely missed by most preparedness channels because it requires peopling. It is difficult. Holy crap, my first live, says Bruce Batsy. Bruce Batty. Bruce Wayne. You're Bruce Wayne now. Hold on. Speaking of network, my phone's blowing up over here. These are important people to me, which is why I'm taking the opportunity to have a look.
You're ridiculous. Sam's done kicking Bubba's ass.
That's good. I might be ridiculous, but well, we got another new brother getting baptized at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So,
Wow. Praise Yah.
Praise Yah, right? Networks are important. What are some examples of overlooked comfort survival items? That's a really good question. And unfortunately, Shalom, Kyle M. I'm probably not the guy to ask about that because I think far too much time and money and effort is spent with preparedness on trying to maintain comfort when it should be spent mitigating risk, learning to do without rather than learning to perpetuate this system that we already have. Now, that being said, there's a balloon light right here that's shining light on me that's plugged into a jackery. That's cool, right? But if we got to the point that we actually needed the jackery, I probably wouldn't be doing live streams anymore, right? So dual use, dual purpose. Instant coffee is a great suggestion. Candy, wool, whiskey. I guess those fall into comfort items. I do.
Or pillow.
Pillow?
Yeah, like if you
Yep.
have like a certain type of pillow that you enjoy.
You said
sleeping
your
on.
pillow.
Yeah. Like,
Whatever
get
your
another
personal
one of those
pillow.
pillows.
My wife is saying get another pillow. Bible's a great one. Shower kit for sure. But see, shower kit for me, that's part of hygiene, which you should already have squared away. I do stock alcohol. I buy the 1.75 liter cheap whiskey and cheap vodka for barter items, and also for it was a long day and a glass of whiskey would be nice. How do you convince your family to prep? Great question, which I'll touch on in a moment. I have an entire video on that in the Prepper Classroom, and I've touched on that several dozen times in other videos. You should look at, there's a video called Getting Your Spouse on Board that my wife and I did that's on the YouTube channel. It's not Patreon, it's YouTube. Check that out. The concepts apply. Yeah, that was like 3 years ago. But as far as like comfort items, for me, it's really like look at what you use and then inventory and backstock what you use. Is the violence in Mexico worthy of our attention? My take on this is based upon the analysis from Peter Zehan at Geo Now, whose basic take is it could affect our availability of tomatoes throughout the winter. Other than that, not so much. It's really, see, AMLO, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, or whatever his name is, and Biden have a summit coming up this week talking about, and Biden just basically strengthened Title 42 and reinstated Trump-era immigration policies. And so, which is kind of there's a lot of people speaking out in the Democratic Party right now who basically had enough of bad immigration policy, which was the Biden campaign was run on, one of their talking points, and Biden basically had to admit, hey, these things aren't working. So they've gone back to Trump-era illegal immigration policies and strengthened Title 42, which was one decent thing that came out of the whole COVID lockdown thing. So they AMLO and Biden have an upcoming summit in Mexico, as I understand it, where they're going to be discussing these things. And so the cartel violence that's taking place now and the arresting of that cartel leader by the Mexican government was basically kind of a show of force, show of strength to be like, look, we can run our own country. We are decent human beings. You should totally treat us as equals. Oh, Shield Bearer Faith is in the chat? Where's my brother Shield Bearer? I didn't see him. Where is he? Texas T, shalom, brother. Mass Preppa said grow your own tomatoes. I would agree with that. That's a good analysis. I don't see Shield Bearer, but I am assuming he's in here. Oh, there he is. Shalom, brother. That's a good brother right there. I was showing them your sketch earlier. Very good. Shalom, Badger. J. John, shalom, bro. So, and then I don't remember what the other question was. Maybe you could call Sasquatch in with the shofar for a cigar. Oh, it is. It's like an inferno in there. Dang. It's like camera worthy. Look at that. Holy cow.
Yeah. The whole thing might go up in smoke. I don't know.
You could bake a pizza in there for sure.
You could.
Look at that. Yeah. If you buy a still, it's 2 for 1. I've got a still. I've made some unaged whiskey, truck fuel in there. Inside the Money Matrix. Good evening. Good to see you. Dustin Pripple. Shalom, brother. I would recommend the hypothermia baptism kit. Yes. Yeah, Dustin recently took a dunk as well. Praise Yah. Shalom, Joe Garcia. Now that's a bed of coals. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, it's 7 foot high. We've burnt 42 cedar trees in this spot over the last 10 days. Where's the cigar? I had a Fat Bottom Betty earlier, and I'm good right now. I don't need another one. I don't need any. I don't want another one right now. So, grab some victuals to cook. Great coals. We're actually not hungry right now. So, typically on Shabbat, right, seethe what you will seethe and bake what you will bake. Day of prep. That's why Friday is such a busy day for us. So typically we don't cook on Shabbat, but occasionally, if it's like a family thing, like, you know, let's get together and cook, we will. And so I made 2 homemade pizzas earlier and a loaf of homemade bread. And the first pizza, the second pizza was your typical kids are hungry, half turkey pepperoni, half cheese, right? And some of you know, I'm from upstate New York. Some of you don't know, I'm from upstate New York. And one winter when I was doing construction, they gave us the whole winter off, which was pretty rare. And so I would get really bored sitting in my apartment, and across the street from me was a little corner coffee shop, bakery, delicatessen, right? And they had a pizza oven. And so I'd go in there at 5 o'clock in the morning when they opened, drink a pot of coffee, hang out, talk to the guys, and sooner or later I was offered a job. And so I learned how to make pizza. From, of all people, a Mexican guy named Pin. And Pin taught me how to make pizza. And I've always enjoyed making pizza since then. And so I've been on the hunt for a good pizza dough recipe, which I'm happy to share with you if you'd like. It's super simple. But now that I've finally nailed the recipe, we make pizzas fairly often, and it also makes excellent bread dough. So, one pizza was your typical kids are hungry, half cheese, half turkey, pepperoni. The other pizza was lamb gyro meat, shaved onions, and the sauce was a pesto. And oh my yeah, it was tremendous. And I have I have a full loaf of bread sitting on the counter that will probably get dipped in pesto when I get done out here, so super basic bread / pizza dough recipe. Bread flour, good flour, the best flour you can get. And the flour that I like to use, let me see if I can find it. It's Boobadoo, where is it? Sorry, I have fat thumbs. There it is. It's this stuff right here. Wheat Montana. Right there. Natural wheat flour. Or grind your own, okay? Or grind your own. But this stuff for making bread is the bomb, okay? Best way to store flour long term, in a Mylar bag with an oxygen absorber inside of a bucket. You're going to get about 5-ish years out of it. The best way to store flour long term is to store wheat and then grind it and make your own flour, which will last indefinitely using the same method. So, the best flour you can get, 5 cups of flour, okay? You're going to need 2 big bowls. So in big bowl number 1, you're going to put 5 cups of wheat flour, and then 1 package of yeast, or 2 tablespoons of yeast. If you have the big package of dried yeast, one or the other. Then 3 light pinches of salt, 3 heavy pinches of sugar, 3 glugs of 3 tablespoons of quality olive oil. Okay, so 5 cups of flour, 1 package of yeast, 3 pinches of salt, 3 heavy pinches of sugar, 3 glugs of olive oil. Okay, glug being this. Turn the bottle, glug, glug, glug. Okay, then 3 cups of warm, almost hot water to activate the yeast. Put the first 2 cups of water in and stir it all up, and it's going to look like wet Play-Doh. It's going to be, it'll be very dry, right? And then just gently add a little bit at a time of the 3rd cup of water until it starts to look like dough. You don't necessarily always add all of the 3rd cup of water. Then, floured surface, turn the dough out. Knead the dough for a minimum of 5 minutes. Punch the dough down for a minimum of 5 minutes. This is really important. It activates all the gluten strains in there. It's what makes the crust crispy. It's what gives the elasticity to the dough, so forth and so on. Distributes all that stuff through the dough. Knead the dough for a minimum of 5 minutes. Recommended is 20. I've had days where 20 was not going to happen. 5 got the job done. Okay. Second big bowl, 2 glugs of olive oil in the bowl. Coat the whole inside of the bowl. Put your dough inside of it. Cover it with a dish towel or with cling wrap. Leave it alone for 3 hours. It will double in size, if not take over the entire bowl. After that happens, and I realize it sounds way more complicated than it is. Go back and rewatch this portion of the live stream, and you'll have a 40 minutes if you don't have bear-sized forearms. Yeah, they're a little massive. Take the dough, put it in the oiled bowl, cover it for 3 hours. After 3 hours, the dough will at least double in size, if not take over the entire bowl. Turn it back out onto a floured surface, cut it into thirds. You now have enough dough for 3 large pizzas, or 3 loaves of bread, or 3 whatever, okay? So it's a pretty simple recipe. 5 cups of high quality flour, 3 pinches of salt, 3 large pinches of sugar, heavy pinches of sugar, 1 package of yeast, 3 cups of water, but slowly add the 3rd cup until it looks like dough. Turn it on the floured surface, knead it for a minimum of 5 minutes, put it in bowl number 2 that has been oiled, let it sit for 3 hours. It'll make 3 portions, 3 pizzas or 3 loaves of bread or whatever. And so, and this illustrates, like, this is the practical aspect of preparedness, right? And so, like I said, the adult pizza was lamb meat, shaved onions, pesto, and it was absurdly delicious. And I bake it at 450. I blind bake I take a sheet pan, olive oil, just a thin coating of olive oil, blind bake the dough for 5 minutes, pull it out, put your toppings on it, then bake it for another 10 minutes, and it's tremendous, okay? But that's like the practical aspect of preparedness, right? Having the stuff that you need to bake bread or make pizza, right? Like, that's pretty cool. And so getting back to like comfort in SHTF, look at how you live your life right now and think, how do I perpetuate that? Perpetuating normalcy for the people that we love in times of chaos. That's preparedness. How do I perpetuate that when I can't just go to the store to get olive oil or salt or flour or yeast, right? So have a backstock of those things. I'm deep on all of those things. I have, not being facetious, I have more wheat in buckets than most people have total food storage, okay? Or dress out and butcher a goat or a sheep or a deer. Yep, we do that a lot. I've got videos on YouTube and on Patreon about killing sheep, processing sheep, eating sheep. We do that quite a bit. And Yah has blessed our flock this year. We've gone from 12 sheep to 26 sheep in the last couple of weeks. Shalom, Brother Staw. Good to see you. Simple things like water. How much water do you have? You're definitely going to need that. You need that to make pizza. You need that to make bread. You need it to not die. It's pretty important, right? Why one should always carry right in the rain, never know when you could make a pizza in SHTF, right? There you go. So, you know, and then this bed of coals that we've had for 10 days illustrated or facilitated a conversation that my wife and I had earlier, talking about making a cob oven. Something I've thought about on several occasions. And when the gazebo is finally like built out, done, right? I want to have an oven, a wood-fired oven over there for these reasons, right? Because it's cool now. In my 90% context, everyday life, I want to be able to make a pizza from scratch and cook it on a wood fire at my gazebo that we timber framed, me and some brothers. That's cool. That's high quality of life right now. But it's also super duper practical if/when the balloon goes up. You know what I mean? So, what other questions we got? Shalom, I heard pizza. Yes, Kurt the Mole, we were talking about pizza. Are there any legit clean food preps? Oh, for sure. All of our food preps are clean. By legit, you mean like something that you should definitely have that most people think about, or like is everybody just lying about their long-term food storage being clean? Favorite color? Gray, earth tones. I'm super duper colorblind.
I'd say black.
Black, yeah, I have a lot of black clothing. Sources to purchase, I meant. Oh, yes, Zor Standard. And what's the other one? There is it Azor that their warehouse blew up recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're Torah observant, so their food should be clean. And grains are clean. One real game changer for us, and I know that they're super duper expensive, but a real game changer for us was my wife saved her nickels and dimes and bought a freeze dryer. Favorite symbols? Oh, we'll touch on that in a minute. And the freeze dryer, we can now freeze dry anything we want. Our chickens, our turkeys, our sheep, deer, our cattle, our whatever, right? And I know these animals are clean. I know they're, and see, that's another thing that comes from living on a homestead, right? There's, cruelty-free, antibiotic-free, free-range, non-GMO, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's just homesteading, right? That's just homesteading. And so I don't have to worry about, what have my sheep been eating? Grass, the occasional sweet feed. Like, they're good to go. My favorite symbols. I'm a fan of Sabian symbols. I like Sabian, and I use Sabian AA, AAX, and HH symbols. So, hand-hammered symbols. That's another thing. Like, you get what you pay for, and they make really good symbols. And Sabian, the guy Sabian, used to work for 7JAN, and they got into a lover's quarrel, and he left and started his own symbol foundry, a millennia ago or something like that. And so, what I like about Sabian is not only do they have really good tone, they're loud. And remember that my background in drumming is heavy metal. And my drums, especially when we first started gigging, there was no miking the drums. So I was competing with 2 Marshall stacks, a bass stack, and a PA. And I still had to have my drums still had to cut through the noise, right? And so I have big drums, I have big Tama drums, and I have big loud Sabian cymbals, and they all sound great too. And so I went with Tama because I like the sound of their drums and their hardware is impeccable. I went with Sabian because I like the sound of their cymbals and they cut through the noise, right? So, if you're asking about symbols of faith, do stuff. Yod. The outstretched hand. That's it. Make no graven images. So, you're welcome. Oh, what's up, Badger? Yes. I'm back. Did you miss me? We did miss you. We almost shut the live stream down because you were gone, brother. It was rough, but we made it. Oof. Thanks, Wind.
Oh, sorry. That might be my fault too.
I always use EV and PV Mackie for my PA when playing live shows. So I like Mackie a lot. I had QSC amplifiers and Yamaha speaker cabs and loved it. Absolutely great sound. See, and it gives you a little insight into who I am, right? So when we were first getting started gigging, we were getting some good shows, playing some good shows, and we kind of hit a wall. And there's an establishment in everything, right? Including the New York heavy metal scene, there was an establishment. And I'm me, and I was making money hand over fist cutting timber. And so I bought a giant PA system, and I started a production company. And that production company started booking all of the bands who wouldn't let our band play shows with them. So now they had to play shows with us. And we got to play shows with the bands that we wanted to, and I got to earn a couple of bucks while we were doing it. Because that's how my brain works. serial entrepreneur, right? And so we had a bunch of Yamaha speaker cabs and a rack full of amps and Mackie board and blah, blah, blah. Microphones out the wazoo, and honestly don't know what happened to any of that equipment. Don't really. A Mackie, an Onyx 16 something something X at the bunker where my drums are, and got mics on everything, like kick drums, 2 kick drum mics, 2 snare drum mics, so that's 4, 5 tom mics, so that's 9, overheads is 11, hi-hat and ride is 13, yep, and then kick drum triggers, although I don't really use triggers, so that's 15, and then line in for whatever music I'm playing along to. So it takes 16 channels to mic my drum set, because it's significant. So, oh, I didn't see the question. Go ahead. I'll watch the replay. We'll send question through Refuge Medical. What was the question, JP? I'll see if I can scroll back and see it. It'll be difficult. Or go ahead and just repost it again, JP. I'm looking now. I rap about the Lord. I'd love to come jam. Mr. Still Winning. That's cool. Will the sound of your drums give away your position? The bunker's like 40 foot underground, so I don't think so. Do you hate rap?
No.
I don't hate rap. I
love it.
My wife loves it. I don't listen to rap.
I'll get down with some God rap.
How often do you stock CLS bags? Not very often. They're not a fast mover because it's a very niche market. But we can make one pretty quick for you. If they're not showing in stock at the store at refugemedical.com, just email sales@refugemedical. We'll whip one right up for you. We have all the stuff we need to make them in the store. We just don't keep them like built on the shelf. So sales@refugemedical. We'll take care of you, JP. Appreciate you. Ever listen to Tom McDonald? I have, on many occasions. In fact, I believe it was my mother-in-law that turned me on to Tom McDonald.
It was.
So, hello, Libby. Good to see you. I hope you're having a wonderful evening, Libby. You're awesome. And your dad and your mom love you very much. And Bear thinks you're cool, too. You're not allowed to say that company name. Well, yeah. So I talked to the father about that. There was a 3-day period where I was definitely not allowed to say that company name. And so I didn't. And then the training wheels are still off, right? The kids are still pedaling the bike down the road. My job is to make sure that the driveway is paved while the kids pedal the bike. Right? And so I very much so want the kids at Refuge Medical to be able to pedal the bike that is the business, right? But I'm also, I'm the proud dad who took the training wheels off the bike, who's still standing in the driveway, making sure there's not a stick or a rock that they're going to crash on, right? Have faith in the creator, not the bear. Oh, I agree. I agree. January has very much so been a lesson in relearning. Whose company is this? It's Yah's company. Whose life is that? It's Yah's life. Whose homestead is this? It's Yah's. It doesn't happen to me all the time, but it does happen to me occasionally where literally he will stop me in my tracks. And he did that a few days ago. Just stopped me in my tracks. And, well, I'll tell you what he said. I was coming back from feeding the sheep on the 4-wheeler. I was talking to him just about everything, just talking. And asking him questions. Should I do this? Should I do that? And he responded with, clear as a bell, still small voice. Whatever you do, I will bless. And it just stopped me dead in my tracks. And I said, well, what about everybody else? The other families that are tied to this. And he said, that's between me and them. It makes sense. Then I asked, why? Not why is it in between Yah and these other families. why would you bless whatever I do? And the answer was still small voice, because I love you. I was just crushed at that point. I was like, I love you too. And then clear as a bell, Yahuwah is our refuge and our strength. Now I'm like, I'm not crying, you're crying, right? And then clear as a bell, the voice of Yeshua in the Gospels. Who of you can add one day to your life by worrying? Roger that. Message received. I'm good. And I know the business will be good. And everybody else will be good. And everything's going to be good, right? Don't conflate easy and good. It won't be easy, but it'll be good. And so it was a really good conversation between me and the Father. Just reminded me, hey, you don't drive the bus. You're a passenger on the bus. You can get off the bus anytime you want. But if you want to get to the destination that you're actually supposed to be going to, you let me drive the bus. And you just sit back. And the road might be bumpy. We might get into a ditch occasionally. But we're going to get to where we're going. I got this. And that's a lesson that I need to relearn from time to time, because when I drive the bus, we do end up in the ditch. And the bus catches on fire. And it's bad. It's bad, bad. So, yeah. I talk about refuge when I want to talk about refuge now. That's the arrangement that the Father and I have. And y'all brought it up, so I'm answering. I've asked this question in the last 3 lives. Music is nice, but the fact is, I'm trying to not be scared shitless. I don't have a peasant mentality, but these videos show how not prepared I am. Money is an issue. Well, Crystal, the first thing you should do is not operate in fear. We should probably fix the I'm scared shitless part. We had a sticker at Bear Independent when Bear Independent was still selling product. I think there's a handful of things left at the store, called Action Over Anxiety. The way you deal with the I'm scared shitless, the way you deal with anxiety, period, in life, no matter what it is, whether it's preparedness or a new job or should I get married, should I not get married, whatever. Take action. Yod. Do stuff. And so, the first thing that you should do is sit down with a piece of paper. The first thing you should do is pray. The next thing you should do is sit down with a piece of paper and inventory, not your stuff, you. Where are you? What are you concerned about? This is going to be the CEO Bear 003 video. Personal inventory. I'll give you some tips, tricks, and hints now. Write down what you're afraid of. Write down what's robbing you of your joy. And about a third of that is going to be stuff that's not important at all. About a third of that will be stuff you need to execute on right now. And about a third of that is stuff that you need to handle, but it doesn't have to be immediately. So separate that into 3 columns, right? The stuff you don't need to worry about, just cross it out. It's just bullshit, right? And we all have those things. Sometimes just puking them out onto paper is enough to relieve you of the anxiety of those things. Then you've got these 2 other columns. Stuff I got to do right now and stuff I got to do but I don't got to do right now. Put together a course of action. And the way I do this is I write a short paragraph, 3 to 5 sentences about what I'm going to do to deal with each one of these things. Then once I have the courses of action, the plan written out for each one of these things, I will go through and prioritize each paragraph. I'll put a 1, a 2, a 3 next to each paragraph. And this is the order that I need to execute on these things. And then I execute. That's it. And if you don't have a lot of money, that's fine. Money does not solve all your problems. In fact, there's a certain point at which when you have money, it creates more problems than it solves. That being said, it does kind of lubricate the skids of capitalism, right? So prioritize. First things first. What do you need to do? Food, water, shelter, security. Prepper Classroom, free playlist here. Watch those videos after you've figured out what you need to do. Do that personal inventory and then take action, and that will alleviate you of your anxiety. You shouldn't be scared, because as long as the Father wills it, there's an exponentially higher likelihood that the sun comes up tomorrow and life carries on relatively similar to how it always has, as compared to we're going to be invaded from our southern border, or the economy is going to collapse, or Russia's going to nuke us, or the next real pandemic comes, or whatever it might be. All those things are probable, or I'm sorry, all those things are possible. Some of them are more probable than others. The most probable thing, statistically speaking, is you wake up tomorrow and you still got to be a mom, a daughter, a wife, an employee, a business owner, whatever it might be, a homesteader, a farmer. You still got to work your station in life, whatever that might be. And so the thing to understand about preparedness, like, again, don't be scared. Preparedness is insurance. There are expenses and actions we take to mitigate risk so that we can maintain normalcy for the people that we love. The implied task is establish normalcy. So if you've gotten out of balance to where your 10% context preparedness is spoiling your 90% context everyday life, it's time for a little bit of a reset here, okay? And then yes, that's a great word, Carrie Stennett. It's a journey. This does not happen overnight. I've been prepping for 16 years, going on 17 years. I don't know everything there is to know about anything, including preparedness, but it's part of why I'm able to get on here and talk to a sideways iPhone and offer a bit of subject matter expertise, because I've been doing it for 17 years. And I grew up on a farm. And a lot of preparedness, at least for us, is agricultural. So like split firewood, raise animals, grow a garden, clear trees, bake bread, like can green beans, have a rifle and know how to use it, have a shovel and know how to use it. What? Butcher a sheep, right? Like these are skills that I already had before I got into preparedness, that I have been learning for a long time, are not skills that everybody possesses. And that's okay. That's all right. But you can learn them. And the other cool thing about that, getting back to network, is that I don't know everything there is to know either, right? And so I have a wide and varied skill set. Some of those skills are deeper than others. I'm very comfortable with heavy equipment and chainsaws. I'm pretty damn comfortable with weaponry. I'm less comfortable doing surgery. I'm not terribly comfortable with a radio. I can hit the button and make commo, but if you want me to bounce a signal off the International Space Station so it lands in Singapore during a certain commo window so we can talk to our guys, I'm not your guy, right? But other people are. And that's the beauty of having a team of people. Whatever that team might be for whatever purpose, as long as they're all rowing in the same direction, you're always going to accomplish a lot more with a group of highly motivated individuals than you are going to accomplish with an individual. So don't be scared. Let's again begin with that. We are not given to a spirit of fear, okay? Red Scout is actually the son of Adam. Congrats. What would be the best for an edge-of-town backyard garden? Planter boxes or a greenhouse? Man, without much more context, it's hard to say. What grow region are you in? What does your family eat? How big is your backyard? How much sun do you have? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I was just gonna say, I trend in the direction of both.
I'd start with raised beds first, and then probably progress to greenhouse. But in game, both.
Bibbity boppity boo. Sorry, my phone's blowing up over here.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's not hide the kids and grab the guns.
Okay,
So,
that's good.
yeah. Oh, grab the guns. I already got one. All right. How long until Great Depression 2.0? I have no idea. 3 months, 5 years, never. It all depends on how well we navigate the coming days, weeks, months ahead. And as I'm prone to pointing out, the Great Depression was the worst for people who were highly leveraged in debt. It was survivable for people that had cash flow and owned land. And people say all the time, but what happens when you can't pay your property taxes? Keep working. People still had jobs in the Great Depression, a lot of them. Keep working. If you have cash flow now, set money aside to pay taxes. And then for a certain subset of the population did really well during the Great Depression because they had liquidity. They had capital that they could invest as opportunities were presented during the Great Depression. Businesses, land, all of which went for sale pennies on the dollar because the people who owned them were highly leveraged. The banks bought them. The banks don't want to be property owners. We saw this with the mortgage crisis, right? Recently, a few years ago. Banks don't want to own property. They want money. So if you have the liquidity to be able to pounce on those opportunities as they present themselves, you can actually do very, very well. 2008, thank you, Liberty Off-Road. That's what I thought it was. You can actually do very, very well in an economic downturn. And then for the average man or woman, perpetuate normalcy for the people that you love. If you got 7 years worth of food put up and your grocery bill goes from $400 a month to $1,000 a month, or a week, or whatever, it matters a lot less when you've got literal tons of wheat in buckets and sheep in your backyard. So, what's up, Johnson 11C? Paula Joe Davis is here. Where's PJ at? PJD, there she is. Does Yah give grace to those who are mentally handicapped? Absolutely. It took me a long time to learn this lesson, but it's incredibly important. Your understanding and your accountability go hand in hand. Okay? That's part of why, for the average human being, it can be spiritually challenging to be at this channel for any length of time, because sooner or later we're going to talk about Yah. Sooner or later we're going to talk about the witness that Yeshua provided. Sooner or later we're going to talk about things that you should do and things that you shouldn't do, right? So, as your understanding increases, so does your level of accountability. If you have a low level of understanding, you have a low level of accountability. Yeshua himself rebukes his apostles. Everybody's familiar with this. He said, if you wish to enter into the kingdom of heaven, you must be like these little children. But what people miss is in the verse before, he takes the child that's brought to him and puts the child on his lap. That child is literally sitting in his lap, learning from the master. That's what we're supposed to do. Now, if somebody has a learning disability, they're like a child, that's good enough for Yeshua. As long as you're sitting in his lap, good to go. Good to go, right? And a lot of those people, a thing you might not know about Bear. I've been into, and this is not to toot my own horn, right? Like don't let your left hand know what your right hand does. But I volunteered almost my entire life. As a kid, even when we were dirt poor, we would still go help people that were less fortunate. I volunteered all the time for the Special Olympics. My aunt is a music therapist, was a music therapist for the state of New York, who worked exclusively with the mentally challenged. And we would go a couple weekends a month and go help her at the different houses, state-run houses that she worked at, go feed people, fellowship with them, hang out with them. A lot of folks with Down syndrome, folks with TBIs, etc. And then there's a place in downstate New York, in Rye, New York, called Rye Playland. It's an amusement park. And Rye Playland, one day a year, is closed to the general public. It was only open to, I don't even know the appropriate term. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. It was only open to handicapped folks, differently abled people, wheelchair-bound individuals, people with mental challenges, etc. And you know, I'm Bear. I'm strong. I've always been strong. And so what I would do was I would pick kids up out of their wheelchairs, put them in the roller coaster, and get the lap bar on them. Right? That's what I would do. Then afterwards, it's the coolest thing. Kids are like completely lit up. Never been on a roller coaster before. How the hell do you get on a roller coaster when you're in a wheelchair, right? Well, when some like bear-sized kid picks you up, puts you in there, makes sure you're all strapped in and everything, right? Like it was awesome. So I've done that pretty much my whole life. And so I've had a lot of interaction with folks like that. I can't prove this scripturally, but I believe in my heart. And that doesn't make it right. This is not me preaching. This is just thus saith Bear, right? I believe in my heart Yah has more grace than you could fathom for those people, because I believe in my heart they're closer to Yah than we are. That they see him better than we do. Because everything is a miracle to those people. Everything is the hand of Yah. I mean, you walk into a room and just the smile on one person's face like that just lights up the room. They're so excited to see you. Everything is a blessing, right? And so when Yeshua says you want to enter into the kingdom of heaven, be like these children, I think those people are closer to that than we are. So I think there's more than grace for those people. I think there's a love and appreciation for those people from the Father. So that's my take on it. Tammy Wilson, I would literally die if someone put me on a roller coaster and strapped me in. Don't hang around me. I'm gonna get you, Tammy. So, and again, it's not to toot my own horn, it's just to say that I've personally experienced that. I've seen it hundreds of times on hundreds of different people's faces. And it's so awesome. You know, and just the things we take for granted. You watch somebody who's running at the Special Olympics, and they're just like tears streaming down their face when they complete a 100-meter dash. I suck at running. I could run 100 meters without thinking about it. Like, I just take that for granted, right? Not these people. Everything's a miracle. Everything's a blessing. J-Mac, are you drunk? Because you're being kind of an asshole this evening. So much so that you just got hidden on this channel. Bay Arius Aquarius. They have more to teach me in many ways than I have for them, honestly. Amen. I have a sister that has cerebral palsy. She's the normalest one out of the whole family. and knows all the secrets. Amen. Entertaining angels unaware. Possibly. Simply the best. I worked with that population. It's a purity in spirit. Amen. Shalom, sister, by the way. I didn't know you were in the room. Tim Pack says, I'm disabled. I think I was humbled because of my pride so I could see and do the will of Yah. Amen. Well, Yeshua says if you have an eye that causes you to stumble, pluck it out. If you have a hand that causes you to stumble, cut it off. Better to enter the kingdom of heaven with one hand than to burn in the fires of Gehenna. So, PJD, I hope that helps. It is my firm belief that Yah loves those people with everything that he's got. And that for all of us, our level of accountability only rises to our level of understanding. Because otherwise it would be unjust, it would be unrighteous for the Father to judge somebody on something that they did not know. Right? Montana Sky. I really wasn't planning on crying during this live stream. Me either, but hey, the Spirit's here, right? So. See, and again, like, I didn't necessarily want to do this live stream. But Yah was like, go talk to the people. Okay, cool. Rambet, what's your take on cremation? I don't really have a take on it. The creator of the universe, and where it comes from a lot of times, these questions, as far as like, how can you be resurrected if your body is ash, right? Yah made Adam from a handful of dirt. Adam. Dam means red. It was the red dirt. Hey, buddy. You want to say hi to the people? Hey, Dad. Hey, people. You do any murders lately? Boop. Yeah? Bad guys anywhere? Huh? You just gonna steal the show? Yeah. Good talk. Really want to hang a GoPro on this dog and just see what he does all night. What's going on? Huh? How you been? You been good? Yeah. Sam. What's up? You got any teeth left in there? Yeah, you do. Oh, you still need some? Okay. Oh. Alright. Go kill things. I got work to do. Yep. He's like, I don't think so, Dad. Sam has kind eyes until you trespass. So, I love this dog, obviously. It's probably my favorite dog that I've ever had, and I've had a bunch. And a bunch of them were really good. He's great as far as, like, he's not a protection dog. He's a livestock guardian dog. But he patrols his area. He protects his people. He's super good with us, obviously. Protects his livestock really well. But man, when something comes into his AO that's not one of us, it is a different dog that you see. I have witnessed this dog take out other dogs. And it's, all I could say is, I'm glad he's on my team. That's it. What's up? You want more, huh? I love all animals except bears. Sorry, buddy. Please do the GoPro on Sam. Roger that, Corey. Really, I've thought about it a lot. Like, I would love to see what he sees at night, you know? All right, so back to cremation. Yah made Adam from a handful of dirt. And what made Adam more than a handful of dirt was the Father breathed ruach, breath, breathed his spirit into him and made him man. what's the first rule of thermodynamics? You cannot create or destroy energy, right? If Yah can make Adam from a handful of dirt, and the dirt was dirt that Yah made, in the beginning Elohim created the heavens and the earth. I find it hard to believe that he can't put people back together from a pile of ash concerning the resurrection. And I personally believe what makes you special, what makes you you, is not the meat sleeping bag that your soul lives in, but your soul. That the spark of life that's in you, what was fearfully and wonderfully created in the image of the Most High, was that. Not necessarily this body, you know, your 10 fingers, your 10 toes, or whatever you might have if you're differently abled. It's not the meat sleeping bag that's special. It's the fact that it houses that eternal spark of life that comes from Yah and returns to Yah at the end of a life, at the end of an age. And I just have a hard time believing that my Yah can't put people back together. I've seen him do it. So, and I don't think it's a sin to cremate somebody. Although I can't say that I can think of a verse off the top of my head that says don't do that. If there is one, I'm happy to be rebuked, but none comes to mind at the moment. Right, Sam? Hey, Dad. You're just stealing the show, buddy. Oh, so he's been doing this thing, or I've been doing this thing to him for about the last 3 weeks, where I'll just pick him up, just scoop him up, and just put him on my lap or carry him around, and he gets so freaking excited, man. Like he just tail wagging the whole night. He just gets so excited. Because he's so big. Like, I don't know if it conveys on camera how big he is, but he's big. He's a really big dog. Anatolian Pyrenees mix. And so for him being, you know, 100, 120 pounds, somewhere in there, to just get scooped up off the ground like, you know, he ain't nothing, it excites him. It's great to see. Shalom, Hans. What's up, bro? All right, what other questions we got? What's his name? His name is Sam. And he kills bad guys for us. He's got a couple of sidekicks
Bad
too.
things.
Bad things. Well, yeah, that's true. If he's killed any bad guys, I haven't found the corpses. But we do have a large coyote population,
Right.
so.
My son likes to bury things.
What would you suggest for a single woman? Have skills, not much stores. So work on the stores. But I think what I would suggest for you is what I would suggest for anybody. Network. Find a group of people that you trust, that you love, that you can plug into. And be an asset, not a liability. And again, getting back to that idea of a personal inventory, like, what can you do? What are you good at? You say you have skills. That's excellent. This might come as a surprise to you. We have single women in our tribe. And we love them, and we will protect them to our dying breath, and they are badass, and they bring a lot of value to the group. So, JMac burner account. Good job, Badger. Somebody's got too much free time on their hands. Glock 316. More Sasquatch questions. Nope, haven't seen him lately. Your opinion on holding gold and silver coins for semi-SHTF. I do hold silver, a little bit of gold, because gold is exorbitantly expensive. I have a fair amount of silver. And the predominant reason that I hold it is more for wealth preservation than for bartering post-SHTF. That being said, in Shalom Real Life, that being said, I have a perfect scenario in my head. If everything went according to Bear, everybody would have a certain threshold of silver, right? And if they did, now we can transact with it. But if I'm the only guy with a war chest full of silver and nobody else has it, is it currency now? Because currency has to have velocity, right? You got to be able to spend it. Otherwise, it just doesn't matter. And so the reason we have money is because it allows us to trade dissimilar things, right? If I have a chicken and you have a goat, they're not equal. We can't trade one for one, right? But if you want to trade a chicken for a goat, you could give me a chicken and some silver and I could trade you a goat. See what I mean? And so money eases the flow of goods and services. But everybody's got to have some in order for everybody to be able to partake in the goods and services. And so in an ideal world, everybody, my ideal world, everybody would have some silver rounds, right? Give us this day our daily bread. Awesome. Well, what's a daily wage? A denarius, a silver coin. Cool. So if you had one person working for you, hypothetically, right? If you had one person working for you and their daily wage was a denarius, so you'd need at a minimum 30 denarii for a month's worth of labor, right? Or 360 for a year. See what I mean? And then they got to have a place to spend their denarii, to spend their silver coinage in order to buy, sell, trade. And so you need a critical mass of any amount of money in order for it to work as money. And that's actually one of the arguments as to why the US dollar, while being very weak right now, may not ultimately fail. And it's even as we lose market share as the world's reserve currency, it's because so many transactions are still settled with the US dollar, and there's so many of them that it's really, really difficult to get out of that system. And I know a lot of people, but what about central bank digital currencies? What about this? Most people don't even touch dollar bills anymore. Your currency's already digital. And it really doesn't matter anymore. As much as I hate to say this, it really doesn't matter anymore because fiat is pure fiat now. You can't take your dollar bill to the bank and get an equal value of gold or silver for it. We're off the gold standard. Have been for a hot minute, like 50, 60 years. So digitizing the fiat currency, we've already done that. Your debit card is digitized fiat currency. Sam is not a golden lab. He's an Anatolian Pyrenees mix. So we've already digitized the fiat currency. So I'm not I don't lose sleep over that. Do I love it? No. What's the biggest thing you think people miss in prepping? Two things immediately come to mind, which I've already touched on this live stream, but I will touch on again. The first is the reason you prep is to maintain normalcy for the people that you love. Implied task, establish normalcy. And I think a lot of people in the prepper space have abnormal lives. They've allowed prepping to take over too much bandwidth in their life. And they're therefore doing themselves and everybody around them a disservice by being focused on what could be more so than being focused on what is. And I hate that for people because you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? Well, if you're not taking any shots with what is, you're focused on what could be. You're missing all those opportunities. Opportunities with your kids, with your wife at work, with your family, with your faith group. Wayne Gretzky, that's correct. And so I think the first thing that's missed is too many people focus on preparedness to the detriment of focusing on building a life that's worth perpetuating in the first place. The second thing that I think most people miss is, we talked about earlier, the network effect. It's really important. Really, really, really important. People are really important. People are the best thing and the worst thing about life. They're the most challenging thing about life. Read Principles by Ray Dalio. I don't agree with all of his crap about evolution and the universe and all of that. Like, I'm pretty sure he's an atheist, and I'm clearly not. But he makes some excellent points nonetheless. And an interesting aside, atheists and agnostics and anybody else, any other denomination or belief structure, scientists, for example, they can and do oftentimes touch on the truth of Yah without knowing that they're touching on the truth of Yah. That's actually, in many cases, a better witness for a lot of people. When they're like, oh, hey, look, DNA is a double helix spiral, and it this and that, and yeah, for sure. And did you know that the amino acid bonds between those two spirals replicate the number of knots that one ties in their tzitzit, their tassels, numbers 1537? Interesting. Right? Did you know that there's a word for that in Hebrew called Beidoratav? Generations, Beidoratav. And Beidoratav means a double helix spiral, and it's used in the book of Genesis to describe the covenant that the Father makes with Abraham to your generations, your Beidoratav, your genes. Yeah, and so when science says, hey, look, we've mapped the DNA structure and it looks like this, it's like, yeah, they knew that in Hebrew 4,000 years ago, right? And so just because somebody provides a witness without believing in Yah doesn't negate anything Yah has to say. And if anything, it reinforces what Yah has to say, because his truths are so universal that even people that don't know him will touch on them. People that don't believe Yah made everything still believe in gravity. Who made gravity, bro? Right? So, back to Ray Dalio and Principles. Dalio points out that the two most powerful things that one can have to live a fulfilled life are meaningful relationships and meaningful work. Okay? So, Lefty, appreciate you. Bear, I appreciate your logic and your insight. Always make me think of how I can better myself. You're a good man. I know it's a lot. It's not a lot. Forward it to Grindstone if you don't need it. Thanks, brother. Bless you, Lefty. I appreciate you very much. Thank you. Bear, do you believe in aliens? I do. I've seen them. And I'm not, you guys know, I'm a really bad liar. Hold on, I gotta scoot a little bit closer to the fire.
Really?
Yeah. You got pants on, I got shorts on. There we go. Yes, I have seen them. There are aliens. And, well, I guess we're gonna trade in our toboggan for a tinfoil hat now, huh?
I wish I still had it.
Maybe a little bit of backstory. When I was growing up, I had some really interesting take your kid to work days with my dad. My dad started his own telecommunications and power construction company when he was a young man, like 19 years old. Ran away from home at 15 because he had bad teeth. My dad is a twin, was a twin. My dad has passed, but my aunt is still alive. He was a fraternal twin. And my aunt, his sister, also had bad teeth. And he came home from school one day, and my Aunt Sandy had been taken to the dentist where they tore out all of her teeth. And I said, son, you go to the dentist tomorrow. And he was like, F that. And he snuck out his window and ran away from home at the age of 15. Lied about his age, went to work for a company called Harris McBurney. It was a telecommunications company as a contract cable splicer. They found out that he was under the age of 18 a week before his 17th or his 18th birthday. 17 and 51 weeks old. They fired him for a week and hired him back on his 18th birthday. A year later, he had his own company and 8 contract cable splicers, and at one point had contracts in 13 states throughout the Northeast. Born in a little town in Kansas, eastern Kansas, and became pretty renowned in that industry. Held some patents regarding fiber optics, worked on the first microwave radio communications systems. He wired Strategic Air Command by himself. White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico by himself. Had, TSSCI clearances. I remember as a young kid, very interesting people coming over to the house and having very interesting conversations. And I can remember one time, I was probably 8 years old. My dad was standing in the living room looking out the bay window. It was dark, like this. And there were like 13 or 15 little white lights up in the sky, just kind of moving and swarming, and then one would blink out and reappear over here. And they're doing all these aerial acrobatics that were impossible to replicate with the technology of the day. And he was standing there absolutely silent with his arms crossed looking out the window for about a half an hour until I finally realized something's going on. So I went and stood next to him. And I can't explain it. I lived in an area of upstate New York that is the UFO sighting capital of the East Coast. I saw a bunch of things that I couldn't explain. I had a thing fly over the top of me. Got home late one night. It was midnight. Me and a buddy, Justin Crow. And yes, we had been at the bar before we came home, but I had 2 beers in 4 hours. I was good to drive, and I was completely sober. So we drive home. It was a Friday night after work cutting timber, and we get home, and we're hopping out of the truck, walking from the truck into the house. It was a crystal clear night, and 50 miles away was a little red light. And I said, "Hey, Crow, you see that thing?" And he goes, "Yeah, I see it." And I said, "What do you think that is?" And he said, "Man, I hope it's not aliens. I don't want them to tractor beam us up into the ship." And we both had a chuckle. And in that moment, that little red light went from 50 miles away, that fast, to about 300 yards away in the hayfield behind the house. Huge, like delta wing triangle craft with a white light at the nose and each corner, and then little red lights all the way around. About 100 foot off the ground, and it was massive, about the size of a football field. Comes from the hayfield right over the top of us. No noise other than a low frequency electric humming. Goes right over the top of us. And then continues about 300 yards, same direction to travel, into the hayfield across the street. And then gone from 300 yards away to 50 miles away, little red light, that fast. And I looked at him and he looked at me and he said, "What the f was that?" And I said, "I don't know, but we're going in the house." In addition to a bunch of other things I've witnessed personally. So that technology exists. It's out there. And as far as what aliens are, what the Pleiadians are, or the Norwegian-looking ones, or the little grays, I think the grays are EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entities. I think they are biological machines. And I think they work for the other. And I think the other, and now here's where things are probably going to get interesting. Hasatan, the enemy, Satan, masquerades as an angel of light. We know from the book of Genesis that angels fell. Genesis 6. They came to earth and they fornicated with the daughters of men. And they produced some heinous offspring, some of which were the men of renown. Men of renown being like your Norse pagan gods, right? And the pantheon of gods from, Greco-Roman times. Half angel, half man. Interesting capabilities, their special capability, their superpower. Like, it's documented. It's in Genesis. It's in Jasher. It's in Jubilees. It's in Enoch. It's all of that. It's there. And we know, for example, that there was a hierarchy of these angels who fell. There was approximately 200 of them. And, for example, one of them was Azazel or Azazel, who taught the men and women of earth. He taught the men how to make warfare and the women how to beautify themselves. Whoredom, fornication, murder, right? Not good stuff. And that these angels had advanced mathematics, advanced technologies. I think, personally, what we experience as extraterrestrials is alien technology, and those aliens are either themselves or are descendants of these fallen angels from Genesis chapter 6. That's what I personally think. Now, others will say, well, no, they're beings from the Zeta Reticuli star system or Alpha Centauri or wherever, and, the reason that they're abducting people and doing cattle mutilations is because that they have lost the ability to reproduce themselves, and they need human women so that they can raise their own children, so that their bloodline doesn't die out or whatever. Maybe, I don't know, and I don't think anybody really knows, or at least anybody that I know really knows. But I do think the U.S. federal government and other world governments have been contacted by them and have been in contact with them since 1947, the Roswell incident. And I don't think Roswell was a weather balloon. And if you go far enough back in the annals of any civilization, there are always stories of sky people. Always. And so I think that those sky people are either they themselves or the offspring of these fallen angels, the Watchers. John James says, I know some people that shouldn't reproduce. Me too. What are your thoughts on these constant chemtrails, Bear? Well, the first thing that comes to mind, honestly, is you should probably relocate, because we don't have constant chemtrails here. We don't have chemtrails, period. I can't remember one. Can you? We have contrails, but they dissipate water vapor. And we're not like in a direct flight path, but we're not like not in a direct flight path either. I'm in Pennsylvania. Well, yeah, man, you got LaGuardia, Newark, JFK, yeah.
It's like flight capital. So
Yeah. So I don't know. But we know that cloud seeding has been a thing forever and a day.
yeah, like it's a thing.
It's a thing. Here's a thought. Maybe the reason that they are aerosolizing heavy metals into the atmosphere is to, and I'm just throwing this out there, since we're in full-blown conspiracy territory here, is to increase the efficacy of the Earth's magnetic field, knowing that we are due anywhere between now and 2050 for another major coronal mass ejection from the sun, which has the strong likelihood to strip away the Earth's magnetic field for a period of time, which will not just cause a Carrington event, but could cause all types of earthquakes, tornadoes, tsunamis, etc., which could and probably would wipe out 80 to 90% of the Earth's population in a window of about 7 days. Anybody been watching Bennett's Suspicious Observers much lately? Yeah. So maybe that's what it's about. But I don't know. I don't know. And that's getting back to the question earlier about, like, I'm afraid. I'm not prepping enough, and I'm afraid. And also Paula Joe's question about, you know, your understanding and your accountability. Do what you do know, okay? Do what you do know. Execute on what you do know, because I can sit here for another hour and pontificate on chemtrails and aliens and all that stuff. And while I think it's interesting, it's a good thought exercise. The practicality of it's actually pretty low, because there's nothing I can do about those things. If aliens are real, regardless of whether they're malevolent or benevolent, there's nothing I can do about it. If chemtrails, I believe they are real, but I don't know what they're doing. And there's nothing I can do about the fact that they're doing them. So we'll focus on what we do know. Like, I'm going to keep burning cedar trees so I can make more pasture for my cows, because that's a pretty clear-cut course of action that's going to benefit me, not only in my 90% context of everyday life, but in my 10% context of, oh no, the world ended, right? So, I saw a question go by. Sorry, I grabbed saran wrap instead of tinfoil. Cut a breathing hole, buddy. Trent Simpson said, do you have fruit trees? If so, what kind? We have mulberry trees.
Mulberry tree. Well, we have the apple trees.
Apple trees.
So
Mulberry trees.
we have a bunch of trees.
You should really, like, just get on camera.
We have a bunch of trees.
They can't hear you.
Well, you can tell.
You want me to say what you're saying?
Yes.
We have a bunch of trees.
But the frost came. Or
But
the drought came.
But the drought came,
So
and
I
then
don't
the
know if
frost
they're gonna-
came. So we don't know if they're going to come back or not, because now it's winter. But apple trees, pear trees, mulberry trees, cherry trees,
Right.
all that stuff.
We're hopeful.
We're hopeful. Pear trees.
No, we don't have any pears.
What's that one in the front yard?
A cherry. Oh no, that's like a nasty pear.
Oh, it's a
not like an
nasty
edible
pear,
You
apparently.
could eat it, but
We can hear Hami. Okay. We can hear her. Well, that's good. This must be
we
a
can
real
hear the baby chicks. So
must be a real good microphone. Carrie Stennett says, hi, Miss Bear.
Hello, Carrie.
I'm getting a part-time job tomorrow. Hardwood floors or finished drywall. Oh, hold on. Threw my phone into the ground. Remember that part earlier where you were like, I'll get you another bottle of water later?
Oh,
Is it later enough now?
sure.
Because I could go for 2 of them now. Christy Cook says, we love you, Hami. That's good. I also love her.
Yeah. Shalom, y'all.
Where to go? I'm getting a part-time job tomorrow. Hardwood floors or finished drywall. I want to keep my weekend machinist job, but I might not. Hey, man. Get that money while you can. What are your thoughts on Jacob's ladder? DNA. Angels descending up and down at the promise to the seed of Abraham. Jacob is Israel. He's the fulfillment of the promise, or a partial fulfillment of the promise that is made to Abraham. Because when Abraham leaves, when Abraham comes out of Ur-Kasdim, it's him, right? He takes his brother Haran's wife, because that's Torah. She was without a covering. And he goes on a long-ass journey, ends up in the land of Canaan. Yah says, I will make your seed as bountiful as the sands of the seashore, as numerous as the stars in the night sky. It's like, cool story, bro. There's like none of us. When Jacob goes down to Egypt, his household, when Joseph is, Genesis 41, when Joseph is stacking 7 years of food, there's 70 people, 70 beings. Well, fast forward 230 years, when they leave, those 70 people are now a mixed multitude of 603,550 military-aged males. And thank you, their wives, their daughters, their grandmas, and then there were upwards of 80 nations, that left with them as well. the mixed multitude. So all snakes are edible. Just because you can eat it doesn't mean you should eat it. We don't eat things. We keep Leviticus 11. So. Hi, Sam. You back? You're supposed to be doing your job. What are you doing?
Me?
No, the dog. It's quiet night, easy night. Nobody needs to get schwacked. Good talk. All right, go kill things. He just pushed my arm with his big old head. You're not done, Dad. How old is Sam? Great question. How old is Sam? He's 4 years old?
3.
3. 3 years old.
3 years old in March.
3 years old in March. Honey badger. According to Ben from Suspicious Observers, Oklahoma is going to be underwater with the micronova in the 2040s. Are you preparing to move to Colorado? You know,
No.
so I'm super aware of Ben's predictions, and I'm not, I'll just put it to you this way. I am not convicted enough based upon what Ben has presented to uproot my family and move to Colorado. That being said, Yeshua does say in Matthew 24, which I read this morning as part of my daily reading. I'm at that point in the book again. Not far off from completing the book for the 8th time. And at that time, flee to the mountains. So that sticks out to me. Oh gosh, here we go with the no bacon thing again. Nope, not from pigs. We eat beef bacon, and it's far better. So I've seen Ben's predictions, and they make a lot of sense. Now I have to couple that with everybody I'm surrounded by is from somewhere else, and everybody here was moved here by the Father, unequivocally. And if you were to talk to Ben from the YouTube channel Suspicious Observers, if you were to talk to any and or every person who's here, they all have an incredible testimony of how they were moved here by the Spirit, how the Father brought them here. I don't think he brought us all here so we could get schwacked. Now, he may have brought us all here so that at some point when he says, good, now that you're all together, flee to the mountains, we can flee to the mountains. But that conviction has not been impressed upon my heart as of yet. So I wouldn't mind, honestly, having a house in the mountains, but not because Ben said so. I like the mountains.
Right, and not necessarily Colorado.
Not necessarily Colorado.
Yeah.
They got some shitty laws in Colorado.
Yeah.
Colorado would be great if it wasn't for all the Coloradans.
Right.
Wyoming, maybe? We like Wyoming. We do. I'm already in the mountains. Congrats. Yeah. Go easy with Suspicious Observers. Ben is a little high-strung. I agree. So, hey, it's Bob. He will guide us. Amen. Shalom, brother. So, and that again, like, getting back to, like, Ben closes every video with, eyes open, no fear. Be safe, everybody.
Everyone.
Everyone. Okay, whatever. Pretty close. I missed 2 syllables. That being said, like, no fear. Copy. I think Ben's on to something. I don't know if the cataclysm is going to be what he predicts, though. Y'all got family in the mountains, so no worries, brother. Bless you, brother Saw. We're going to bug out to Saw Camp. Hell yeah. We're going to have to figure... The people thing, I think we can get down pretty good. The dog thing, we're going to have to figure out. Because he's got his triangle. We've got 2 of ours. So, we'll figure it out. Glock 316. Barrett, what are your thoughts on handling small non-military drones inside of your area of operation without OPSECing yourself? It is an invasion of privacy that my Mossberg 500A1 don't like. I would say, first of all, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that very much. Second, my Mossberg agrees. Yeah. Drones are an incredible tool. As far as gathering intelligence, incredible tool. So that's a good question, Brass Pill. Is fleeing to the mountains not for the peeps in Israel? 60-second dissertation on this. Israel is a heart condition. The Israel that is in the Middle East right now is not even 1/10 the size. Oh my gosh, why did you do that? You just cooked my legs. It's not even 1/10 the size of what is given to the Hebrews, the Israelites in the Bible. And Israel is a heart condition. If you go to Genesis 32, when Jacob, before he's renamed Israel in Genesis 32 when he wrestles with God. I would submit the God that he wrestles with is the physical manifestation of God, aka Yeshua, what most people call Jesus. And he's renamed in Genesis 32, Yisrael, because you have struggled with God, Elohim, have overcome with God, Elohim, and are now ruling with God, Elohim. So to be Israel, the name Israel literally means to struggle with God, to overcome with God, and to rule with God. And this is, for most of us, what our relationship with God looks like. First, we struggle with him. Then by the blood of Yeshua, we overcome. And then we rule. Adam, the whole reason he was made was to rule and subdue, to work the garden and guard it. That was his job. Exodus 19 verse 6, I shall make of you a holy nation and a kingdom of priests, right? To rule. So Israel, a euphemism for Israel, is the tree of life in the Old Testament. Roger that, Aaron Bear. Thank you. And so you go to Romans 11:16, the tree the Gentile believers in Messiah are grafted into is Israel. That's why Shaul of Tarsus, the Apostle Paul, is talking about, hey, you don't get a big head. Just because some of the natural branches may have been removed, the root bears the branch, not the other way around. The branch does not bear the root. So you've been grafted into the root. The root is Israel. The root is, dare I say, the teachings of the Old Testament. And Yeshua himself says, I come first, but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And so unfortunately today we have a geographical understanding of what Israel is, because it's a nation state on a map that was put there in 1947 by a global cabal, which is a completely secular nation. There's not one word about God in the Constitution of Israel. Not one. It's not the Israel of the Bible. So, yeah. Hope that answers your question. Do you believe the rapture? No. No, I do not. Rex on his Patreon page just posted a great video about the rapture. Pre-tribulation and mid-tribulation rapture are not biblical. And before anybody wants to argue with me, I would encourage you to do two things. Bear, do you eat frog legs? No, we keep Leviticus 11. I would encourage you to do two things. I feel like we're getting off the tracks a little bit now with these questions. The first thing I would encourage you to do is research John Darby, the Darby Bible, the Darby Hymnal. Post-Civil War in America, John Darby wrote a hymnal, and he also wrote a bunch of pamphlets, and then he published his own Bible that included the teachings from his pamphlets, basically espousing the pre-tribulation rapture. 1868, I think, was when this came out. And it was the first time in Christendom that it was understood by anybody that there would be a pre-tribulation rapture. And it caught on like wildfire because the country had just gone through a civil war, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom, brother against father, against son, against mother. It was miserable. And so the idea that believers in Messiah would be spared the tribulation gained a lot of popularity. It's not biblical. Mid-tribulation, maybe you could make the argument that it's biblical. But when that happens is after all the seals and all the bowls and all the vials of judgment have been poured out, after all the scary stuff. And we will be gathered up into the heavens, but guess what? We return to earth. The new heaven and the new earth, where all the believers dwell, read Revelation, is in the city of Jerusalem, Jerusalem, in Israel. And there's some rules about how you get in there. So the second thing I would encourage you to do is get your Bible out and then go to my Revelation playlist and read along, word for word. Look at your Bible while I look at my Bible and read it word for word with your own eyes. See it with your own eyes. Hear it with your own ears. Actually examine that teaching. Because at one point in my life, I did believe in that. Because I was in the Big C Christian Church. And then I realized that, like many of the other doctrines that are taught in the Big C Christian Church, oh, that's wrong. That's not correct at all. And so through a decade of my own research, that's the conclusion that I've come to, because that's what the Bible says. Do you think we're living in the end times, Revelation? I personally do not. I fellowship with many people who think that we are, or that we're on the cusp of them. But I personally do not. And the primary reason for that, and I'm not trying to be facetious, is if we are living in end times, then Yochanan, John, really took some writer's liberty. He really stretched the truth quite a bit with what he wrote about in Revelation. Yeshua himself in Matthew 24 says that there will be wars and rumors of wars, and famine and plague and disease and earthquakes in diverse places. And they shall deliver you up and kill you, believing that they're doing Elohim, doing God a favor. And you will be persecuted for my name. See that you are not troubled. These are the beginning of the birth pangs. That's the beginning. Have any of y'all, any single one of you, had somebody with a machete show up and try and cut your head off because of your belief in Messiah? When that happens, and see, this is happening elsewhere. It's happening in Syria. It's happening in China. Have any one of us, see, and this to my brother Rex's video, Americans have become so spoiled that an economic recession literally feels like the end of the world. No one is killing you for your belief in Messiah. And I don't mean onesie twosies, people who are off their meds or possessed by demons. I mean broad swaths, whole-scale slaughter of believers. It's not happening here. So when it is, I'll say, oh, we're at this point on the timeline. Yeshua said this is the beginning of the birth pangs. Then again, go read Revelation. So, and no, I don't believe we're in end times. We could be on the cusp of end times. And then my second point here is, I firmly believe that every generation since Yeshua literally walked the face of the earth has thought he's coming back at any moment. At any moment, he's coming back. And we're told, therefore watch and be waitful, for no man knows the day or the hour, right? We're supposed to watch. We're supposed to be waitful. Okay?
Pay attention.
Pay attention. That's a great point. Third temple hasn't even been built yet. Exactly. Because Yeshua says in Matthew 24, when you see the abomination of desolation that the prophet Daniel spoke about, then you will know. But there's not even a temple to abominate, bro. And so, are we in end times? Biblical timeline, no. Are we on the cusp? Maybe. Has every other generation for the last 2,000 years thought that it was possible? Yup. Am I any smarter than them? Nope. Shalom to Borosaurus Rex. We were just talking about you, brother, and your Rapture video on Patreon. Great video, by the way. So I don't believe personally that we're in end times. I see all the arguments for why we could be. I see all the arguments for why we could be on the cusp. And I also know, at least for me, my job from Yah right now is not to worry about that. My job from Yah right now is to execute on what he's put in front of me. And if the damn world ends while I'm doing that, I firmly believe that the man upstairs is going to give me the high sign and say, oh, hey, by the way, we're here now. Now do those other things that I taught you about. Yes, sir. Roger that. But he has not tapped me on the shoulder and told me that yet. I've had moments where I was deeply concerned. I've made videos over the years where I was deeply concerned, where we were on the cusp of something big that could be bad. And I don't like making those videos because I don't believe in fear. I don't want to get people all spun up. But just like coming on here tonight and talking to y'all was a lesson in obedience, as I said at the outset, I didn't want to do this live stream tonight. But the Father told me to come on here and talk to y'all. So here we are. Okay? I've had those moments at other times where the Father has said, go talk to the people. Say these words. Yes, sir. And so I've done it. We've definitely walked up to the line of chaos several times in my lifetime. Many times recently. It's annoying. Annoying AF. I don't like it. Basic rule of business. Repeatable is profitable. Chaos kind of messes with your repeatability, right? So I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy the chaos one iota. And I'm deeply concerned for my children at times because I want them to inherit a world that's better than what I had. That's challenging these days, right? But it's a lesson in obedience for me that when the Father says jump, my answer is supposed to be yes, sir, how high? Whether that's going to go deal with a tornado or a hurricane or make a YouTube video or develop a product or baptize somebody or go rescue a kid that's being raped. None of that's comfortable, but it's the right thing to do. So I do it when he says so. And so my goal right now, my focus right now is to maintain that depth of relationship with him that when the switch flips, and it is end times chaos, he still keeps talking to me. And he says, hey, kid, remember me? And I'm like, yes, sir, I remember you. Love you, Dad. What's up? And he's like, it's go time. Roger that. And he hasn't given me that word yet. And if he does, if he ever gives me that word, and this platform still exists, I will let y'all know, hey, Dad said it's go time. He hasn't given me that word yet.
Well, I think that's important to point out, too. You trust that he will give you that word.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where faith comes, like, you believe.
I have no reason to believe that he wouldn't give me a
Right.
word. So, 2 hours we've been on here so far.
I don't even know what time we started.
Could the third temple be us en masse? Nope, it's a physical building. The abomination of desolation. And for the people who were asking about bacon earlier, my guess is that they're going to sacrifice a pig on the altar. Swine is an abomination unto Yah. We're not supposed to eat them. We're too close to them. You take a heart out of a pig and put it in a man's chest and he'll live. So when are we going to see the first Jocko Bear podcast interview? I don't know yet. Can't say anything definitive, But I will say that's not outside the realm of possibility. And I can say that we'll be hanging with those guys at SHOT Show when we go here in a couple weeks. And I can also say with some trepidation, I know I'm supposed to go to SHOT Show. Something me and Dad have talked about. I'm supposed to go. I don't really want to go. I don't really want to go. There's something about going to a city called Sin City to go and do business that I just don't love. But that's something else me and Dad have talked about. And it's okay. I'm supposed to go.
Be extra guarded.
Yeah, that's the thing. Be extra guarded. So, I am curious to know, is there anybody, while we're at SHOT Show, that y'all want us to talk to? Like, I intend to talk to, or basically take the temperature of a lot of the different manufacturers that are there. And because there's going to be a lot. And I want to see how many of these American companies make stuff in America. My guess is not many. There's a lot of them I know that don't. Jared from Guns and Gadgets. I'm sure I'll be bumping into Jared. He's a good dude. Last time I saw him was about, I don't know, it wasn't a year. It's when we were in Florida after that storm. Jared's a good dude. My 3-year-old says, "Hi, Bear." Hello, kiddo. Good to see you. Jerry Michalek. Great guy. TJ, I might run into you at SHOT Show. I'll be there, Rick. Let's party. Promised Land Homestead. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you, Bear. You helped wake up my husband the rest of the way more than anyone else I've let him listen to. God bless you and your family. Bless you, sister. Thank you. John Lovell. Maybe. Coleon Noir. Possible.
It's huge.
Mm-hmm. American-made Intel. Good idea. If you see Steven Crowder at the Walther booth, would be interesting. So, fun little story. Bear has access to the Blaze. Bear knows people who work at the Blaze. Bear has made a bunch of stuff for Glenn Beck and for several of the other personalities who were or are at the Blaze. Elijah Schaefer, Dana Lash, Pat, Stu, Jeffy, Steven Crowder, what's that other guy's name? Chad. All those guys. I'll just say this. Glenn himself. Love him, hate him. Theologically, we disagree on a lot of things. Ideologically, there's some alignment, but Glenn is a great guy in person. He has a heart of gold. Super kind human being. Great guy. Absolutely great guy. What you see from Glenn on radio and podcast and video is who he is, really. And I admire that about him a lot. I'll simply say that not everybody who works there or who has worked there is the same way. Far fewer of their staff are the same way. Most of them are absolutely personalities. And the personalities who they are off screen, off camera, I don't want to drink a beer with them. I don't want them to come over for dinner. I don't want them hanging around my wife or my kids. And that's sad to say, but it's just a fact. Good night, Jen and Steve's Homestead Shenanigans. Yeah, I knew you were waiting for that one log to break. So, but that being said, Glenn is super authentic. The last time I was there, No, not the last time I was there. The last time I saw Glenn there, he was in the middle of a meeting with somebody else. Doc Savage is 100 times X-Man Beck is. Okay. Last time I was there, no, the last time I saw Glenn there, Glenn was in the middle of a meeting with somebody, and all of the office walls there are made of like 1-inch thick glass, so you can see into and through everybody's offices. And he was having a conversation with somebody, saw me walking down the hallway, looked over his shoulder, looked back, looked over his shoulder again, realized it was me, stopped his meeting, came over, shook my hand, remembered my name. We'd only met a couple of times before that over the course of a couple of years. I was like, hey man, it's so good to see you. How have you been? What are you doing for us here today? You know, like, how are you? How's your wife? How are your kids? How's business going? Like, thank you so much for what you do for us, you know? It's like, I'm nobody, man. I'm nobody. But he took a moment out of his day to come talk to me on several occasions. Really good guy. Mr. Still Winning, I'm not going to argue with you about Rapture over this forum.
Right.
You are welcome to believe whatever you want to believe. You have a First Amendment right to believe and worship whatever you want. If you want to get down with the flying spaghetti monster as an American, you can do that. And I have no reproach for you, and you should have no reproach for me. I disagree completely with the idea of a pre-trib rapture. It's not biblically accurate. And I would, again, encourage you to do the things that I've already told you to do. Refuge Medical does not have a booth at SHOT Show this year. We may next year if the juice is worth the squeeze. It's terribly expensive. Shalom be America. It's terribly expensive. Just for the group that we have going to SHOT Show, the cost of hotels, you know, travel, lodging, meals, blah, 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 it, you know, access to the show, it's like 15 grand to go, to attend, to walk around. To have a booth, start multiplying that by several factors. So refugemedical.com will not have a booth at SHOT Show this year. If the juice is worth the squeeze, we may next year. But I'll tell you, we've had issues previously with companies who are significantly larger than us trying to rip off our products thus far. I'm not sure how I feel about taking everything we make and putting it on display for the entire industry to see when I know that we have direct competitors who will be there who make their shit overseas. And I know that we already have people ripping off our products. There's a company that makes a rip-off of the Bear Fact. Straight up. We contacted them and said, hey, you're knocking off our stuff. You need to not do that. And they're like, no, we've had this product out for a year. And I'm like, cool. Here's a YouTube video of me from 3 years ago showcasing that product. Stop. And they're like, well, is it trademarked? I'm like, no, because that cost $250,000 and then you have to defend it in court. I'm like, cool, we're going to keep making it. I'm like, well, you're a scumbag. Versus when we made the behind the plate kit, the slim kit, we got contacted by Rob at Focus Group. Great group of guys, former SEALs. It was like, hey man, just want to let you know we do that and we've patented it and we'd really appreciate it if you'd stop. And I was like, damn dude, my bad. We will absolutely stop. Like, I'll take all the components out of those kits and you know, we'll reuse them in other kits and I'll take them off the website right now. And the guy was like, really? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, that's super cool of you, man. Like, most people we have to take to court to get them to stop. I'm like, that's messed up. No, like, if it's your product, I don't want to piss in your Cheerios. Not a problem. And you know what? We have a really strong relationship with Focus Group now. There's been multiple times where we needed something, couldn't get Quick Clot or gauze or anything like that. Call Rob and he's like, yeah, I've got some in stock. I'll send it over to you. Times that they can't get chest seals, he calls us up and says, hey man, you got chest seals? Sure do. It's like, yeah, cool, we'll send some over to you. Right? Because they operate with integrity. And there's a lot of companies that don't operate with integrity. So I've got a check in my spirit about going there and showing off all of our products to people who can make it cheaper than we can because they make it in Vietnam or Cambodia or wherever. So, good night, Kim Gordon. Thank you, Michael T. Honestly, lets you sleep at night, right? Still want an airway management kit with O2. Working on it.
Like everybody's.
Barry, the world is a better place because of you and your crew. God bless you all, brother. Thank you, Carl Sams. Praise Yah. Love you too, sister. Praise Yah. Integrity is worth its weight in gold. Yup.
Sure is.
I've said before on camera and I'll say again, I sleep great. I sleep great. You know, and the other thing too is if you lie all the time, you can't, sooner or later you get tripped up. You can't remember all your damn lies.
Quick.
Thinking of picking up either an IFAC or boo-boo kit, which is better for an EDC attached to a backpack? Well, Mike, that depends a little bit more on context. I think you're better off. I'll tell you what I would get, honestly. If you're between an IFAC and a boo-boo kit, I'd get the bare minimum 2.0. Because what the bare min 2.0 did was it basically took the guts of a boo-boo kit and the guts of a bear fac and smashed them together. So you've got trauma medicine capability plus your boo-boo stuff all in one kit, $219. refugemedical.com, made in America, guaranteed forever, in stock, shipping fast. So you've got your band-aids, you've got your OTC meds, you've got your boo-boo stuff, right? Steri strips, but you've also got shears, a tourniquet, chest seals, you've wound packing gauze, you've got all that in one kit. And so I would recommend getting the bare minimum 2.0 for your context, because if you're kind of between a purpose-built boo-boo kit and a purpose-built trauma IFAC, that's what the bare min 2.0 does. It sits right in the middle between those two things. Like if you could only have one, what's the bare minimum I should have on my pack? The bare minimum. Patreon homestead update. Sure thing, Hudson Sanders. I could shoot that video. It's going to be this long. It's winter, and we're cutting down trees.
Running fence.
Yeah, we are running fence. We've had 14 new lambs, a new baby cow.
Those updates come in spurts with us, like when they happen.
Well, and part of the challenge, too, is that, and PJ talks about this a lot on his Patreon channel, it's hard to film stuff and do stuff at the same time. Like, it takes literally 3 times as long to film you doing something as it does to just do something. It's a great question, Bjorn Actual. Bear, do you ever think about running a disaster relief class? We've thought about it. We've thought about it from 2 different levels. First of all, I think for civilians, it would be a great class to illustrate the shortcomings of most disaster relief agencies and what that actually looks like when the balloon has gone up, and what you as a citizen, a prepared citizen in those regions that are going to be affected by storms, need to know. Like, I could teach a class about that off the top of my head. And so I think that'd be a really good class to teach. Like, you've heard of like where there is no doctor, where there is no dentist, right? What about where there is no rule of law, where there is no government, where there are no services? Thank you, Texas T. Texas T thinks you need the adventure kit. It's an awesome kit. So that's the civilian context, right there. But then we've also thought about, as part of the sustainability model for Grindstone, going to these jurisdictions, county emergency management, in places where they haven't had a storm, or the last storm they had was 30 years ago, or whatever, and saying, look, we don't know everything, but based upon our subject matter expertise, this is what you need to be doing. This is what you need to be not doing. Let's go ahead and do a quick audit of what you have available to you, find the holes in your systems, and then help you plug those holes up. You know why looting starts 3 days after a storm? Because emergency management, first responders, law enforcement officers, fire, EMS, have been awake for 72 hours at that point, and they have to sleep. They have to. And so you always hit a point 48 to 72 hours in where everybody's smoked, because everybody responds. They get all hands on deck. This is how we're going to solve the problem. Get everybody in here, and let's start attacking the problem. And that sounds like it makes sense until you realize it takes months to fix the problem. And so the best thing to do is bring half of your people in, use half of your people, and then rotate teams in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out, while reaching out from there to other jurisdictions, other state agencies. Federal agencies aren't terribly good at this, but other state agencies, get the manpower in, bring the state police in, maybe bring the National Guard in, get other counties to augment your fire and EMS, right? And so the reason things usually start to go bad 48 to 72 hours after an event is because the people who keep things from getting bad are smoked, because they've been awake for 48 to 72 hours at that point. And nature abhors a void, right? The hole next to my collar, that's from burning brush right there. That's from a hot ember. There's also a hole in my collarbone underneath this. So, do you have grindstone groups or teams in other states? I was doing disaster relief with my old church in Tennessee. I don't currently. And part of that, the biggest part of that, is the vetting process. The next part of that is the logistics. Logistics are solvable. The vetting process is much more difficult to navigate. The best way to get inside of our circle is to come to a grindstone deployment, right? We have to see you. We have to vibe check you. Take your temperature. Do you yod? Do you do stuff? Are you an outstretched hand? And a lot of people focus on, like, well, I can't run a chainsaw. I can't run heavy equipment. I can't. Can you cook? Can you help us do laundry? Can you drive a truck that's pulling a trailer full of stuff that people need? Can you make phone calls? Are you good at Microsoft Excel spreadsheets? Like, it takes all types, right? The team requires all types of people in order to be successful. So you need the operational people out in the field making stuff happen. But you also need the support crew, the support element back at the FOB, facilitating for the operational team. And so I see you, East Sandring, I'll get to you in one moment. Come to a deployment. And then you spend enough time with us, then the answer could become yes, for sure. You're a good representative of what it means to be grindstone, because we are different. Shalom, Dudley. We are a peculiar people. We are set apart. We are different, and that's okay, because we also yod. We also do stuff. Versus a lot of these other ministries, especially the big ones, they show up and look good, but they don't do anything. What did East Sandring say? I bought your Ark and Bearfac and they're awesome. I'm now saving my pennies for a stomp kit. Thanks for making such high quality medical kits. Thank you, Esandring. I appreciate you, brother. Maybe one day when you got to park the semi, we can link up. So as far as like franchising out Grindstone, it's not even protecting the brand, right? It's protecting the witness of Yah. That's really important to us. The brand will take care of itself if we just do what Yah tells us to do. But we got to make sure that people are doing what Yah tells them to do. So, and we are people of action. Yod, we do stuff. Good night, tradesman. I saw your text, by the way. I just haven't had a chance to read it yet. Have you used drones to do quick observation of sites on deployment? Absolutely. Again, drones are an excellent asset. Absolutely. And I'm no drone operator. My drone capabilities are buy the thing and hand the box to the person who can operate it when it shows up.
Who knows how to make the thing do
Yep.
things?
I'm not that guy. I just don't have the seat time with them. But they're incredibly good for gathering intel. The kitchen always needs onion choppers. That's right. Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much. Nice artwork on Baron Twitch. I appreciate you. Mr. Still Winning, you're annoying me and you've now been hidden. Finger Lakes Preparedness Network, Shalom. Finger Lakes region, beautiful area of the country. Is there a way for those who can't physically show up to help virtually? We live in Hawaii, would love to help when, where, how we can. You know, Jennifer, I appreciate you asking. Shows a willingness of your spirit to plug in. I would encourage you to reach out to Katie Lynn, admin at grindstoneministries.com, because there is stuff that can get done, like making phone calls, sending emails, reaching out to people on the administrative side of things to like, when we're operating in an area, you know, like I'll give you a great example. Gosh dang, honey, now I gotta scoot back. Hold on, Bear Nation. My wife's cooking my legs. Gosh dang. All right. Here we go. I met with the governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt, who politically I like. Who in hindsight, if I had just met a bear man covered in sawdust holding a steel 661 with a 32-inch bar, I probably, and I had been previously approached by J.A. Dudley saying, "Hi, I'm J.A. Dudley with Grindstone Ministries. You need to talk to Bear. Stay right here, don't move." I probably would have said whatever the hell I needed to say to navigate that conversation as well. You know, optics, right? But we've been unable to get a hold of anybody at that office since then. Now, granted, that was during the election for the governorship of Oklahoma. But the smoke should have cleared from that by now, right? And we've certainly reached out since then. And so things like that, being able to secure the support of people who say they're going to help administratively, absolutely. Yeah, Rambat politician. Good one. I still like his politics. I like the way the state of Oklahoma is run. But I'd also like him to do what he said he was going to do. So much so that, like, well, I'll keep that thought to myself. I'll just say we're good at finding people. We have done the occasional hood rat shit, you know. I need to pee real quick, And so rather than peeing real quick, we've been live streaming for 2 hours and 2.5 hours. So I'm going to call it an evening. I appreciate y'all very much. Thanks for hanging with me. Thanks for spending time around the fire. Thank you for your continued support at our small businesses and our ministries. All the cool things we do have been a partnership between the creator of the universe and the Bear Nation. And we couldn't do it without y'all. So thank you guys very much. Y'all have a blessed evening. Shalom, Tony John. Good night, everybody.